Hayi bafethu 1520 mfana seDayton vutha. South America. Sao Paulo. Yeah, man, so humble. Don't forget bafethu. Subscribe. Ungakhohlwa ukusubscribe. Don't forget WSB hashtag World Sports Betting hashtag Bet with the best. Hashtag World Sports Betting hashtag Bet with the best. Junior Khanye himself. Namhlanje ngiphethe the one and the only. The guy who wrote my book. The guy who wrote Teko Modise's book, the guy who wrote Thembi Kgatlane's book, the guy who wrote MacG's book, so humble, Nikolaos Kirkinis, so humble, a genius, my Ato, is gonna talk for himself, travel all the way from Durban to here. I'm so humble. Nick, how are you, brother of mine?
Right, man, right. I'm so happy to be here. I wouldn't.
There's a drink for you.
Yeah. No, I'm really happy to be here. I wouldn't be anywhere else in the world. Me and you, Junior, we've known each other for a while now, and it's been special. And I know that Junior is one of the most loyal people I've ever met in my life, and that if you call me somewhere, I'll come. And we've been to places together. We've been Etwatwa, we've been Moria, we've been Fosluras.
They don't know that we went to church together.
We've been places.
People, they don't know, eh?
People don't know that our ancestors introduced us to each other. They don't know that Junior saw it in a dream first.
Imagine you are saying it deep. Like people, other people, they don't understand ancestors that they are alive. You mentioning it, I'm so humble, Nick.
Oh.
And you know how we met, me and you. So humble. I remember I was called by
Daily Theatre.
Daily Theatre. I went there for the interview. I think Dr. Kumal was there. Saddam MacG was there. And you were there, sitting there. I knew the face, but I didn't know that you were the writer of the art of the book called. Let me say Teko Modise's book. I didn't know that you wrote Teko Modise's book. Also, you wrote Thembi Kgatlane's book, and you came a long way. But we're gonna talk about this. We're going to talk about that. I don't want to talk for yourself, for you. You need to talk for yourself, Nick. And I want to, without wasting time, Nick, people want to know, who's Nick?
So, Nikolaos Kirkinis is my full name. What's important to know about me is I'm a South African through and through. I was born and raised in Roodepoort. And I've been a Kaizer Chiefs supporter since a young age. My earliest memory is in Orlando Stadium, watching a local game. It wasn't a Chiefs game, but it's my earliest memory. So since being a young kid, I was football obsessed. But unlike most white South Africans, I was never interested in English Premier League. I was only interested in local football my whole life. But before me, I'm the child of immigrants who descended from Greece. So that's where my surnames come from. Nikolaos Kirkinis is a Greek name. And also my amadlos of mine are from Egypt and Zimbabwe. And they came down to South Africa. And then I was born and raised here. So the reason I say that is I was raised in a very multicultural environment with lots of different languages, lots of different cultures, lots of different aspects. And it was very different to the upbringing you would have if you were an Afrikaans white South African or an English white South African. So we were always playing football, ekasi. We were always doing things like that exposed us to parts of South Africa that other white people don't get to see. So I was a South African football fanatic my whole life. But then on top of that, I was also a book nerd. I used to love reading. I used to love writing. I used to love storytelling. Storytelling's in our bones as Greek people. I know the same like you. You can tell the story the Azanian way, proper storytelling. That's the same thing that we have. So when I finished studying, then I wanted to combine these two things, love for football, love for writing. And I went to Soccer Laduma one day. No appointment. I didn't phone them, nothing. I went to Soccer Laduma, knocked on the door at the sample. I said, I wrote this. I think I can be a journalist here. And they gave me my first job at Soccer Laduma.
Nick, it's so humbling and touching. And I will ask this. How far did you go with school?
School, I went all the way. It it wasn't a choice. We were privileged enough to be sent to a nice school, and our father was very strict. It wasn't a choice. He had to see it through. So I stayed same school from the beginning, grade 0 through to matric finished. And then I went to, I was lucky enough to go study at Stellenbosch University. But there I studied nothing to do with my career. I studied politics there and philosophy and economics and those things. And then I finished with a politics degree, and I was like, what now? Must I apply to be president of the country? What can I do with a politics degree? And I remember my father saying to me, and I was mad at my father. I said, why didn't you tell me to study accounting or tell me to study to be a teacher? Because then I would know what I'm supposed to be now. And he said, no, but now that you have a general degree, it means you can be anything. So he said, don't make excuses, go be something. So that's when I was reading the Sokola Duma. I used to read it all the time. And I saw the address was down the road from where I was staying. And that's where I decided, okay, let me try. And I'd been emailing people. People don't respond to emails, so I just walked there. So my education, I was lucky. I got to have a full education. But I would say that the career I ended up having didn't have anything to do with my education. They were separate.
Was it?
Yeah.
Nick, I want to find out, what background do you come from? I'm talking about you came from the structured background. I'm talking about the family. The family, the background that you come from. The background, it was properly, or you came from a very miserable background. It's a question, because that's normal. That's not embarrassment. And there's nothing, you don't have to feel bad if that happened. Actually, I'm talking about your background of the family.
For sure.
You came from the organized family, the supportive. I'm asking that.
Yeah.
Or you come from a scattered family.
Yeah,
I want to find out.
So I think what I was quite lucky with family, and something that a lot of South Africans are unlucky with, is that my father and my mother stayed married throughout my life. So I was very lucky to grow up in a household where there was a father and a mother. Because I think a lot of the guys I've written for have told me the problem was all of us as Machita, we're born like naughty. We're born with this fire inside. And you need a father figure to sort of keep you in line and make sure you don't stray too far. So I was lucky to have that. And what I will say first off is that I grew up with all the privileges of a white South African. There's unspoken things that happen for you as a white South African that are hard to explain, but you know that this is privilege. This is not something that's afforded to everyone. But I think where we're lucky is that my father, he never came from money himself. He had to make his living. So to take it back, my family is from a village in a tiny country called Cyprus. It's next to Greece. That village was impoverished. No running water, no electricity, nothing. The people left from there to try and get work. They ended up in Egypt, and they worked as waiters in Egypt. At some point in Egypt, they kicked out all the foreigners. They came further south to South Africa, and that was my family. And they arrived here with nothing, but they managed to hustle and make things happen. But again, it was easier for them to hustle. They were white people in apartheid South Africa. And the reason they came to South Africa is because they knew it would be easier. So it was easy in the sense that it's not easy. They started to work for it, but they were given an opportunity that a black South African father would never have been given. But still, because of that, because it didn't come from like this line of royal Englishmen, our father was always quite insistent. Like, no matter how much money we have, you must stay humble, you must stay disciplined, you have to treat everyone equally, and more importantly, you must learn how to be a South African while still having your unique identity as a Greek South African, but you must learn how to integrate in the country around you. Don't be supporting English football. Don't listen to English music. You must engage in the country around you. You must be part of it. So from a young age, he was taking us to Tembisa to watch MacG concerts even. He was taking us to Kasi football tournaments even. So we were very lucky in that sense.
You know why I'm asking? The way you interact with people, black people, myself and other people. One day, me and you went to Soweto. I remember. I think it was 2022. We were going to it was a promotion for this book, Get Your Ninja. And the way you interacted with people, truly amazing for me. So humble, Nick. And white people, you know how they respond, especially when they see black people. And in location, cars in Soweto, you never had fear. Like, to me, it was amazing, Nick. And the way you interacted with me, every time I call you, people they don't know when we wrote this book, me and you drove from Durban to my place, wanting to see me in person.
I wanted to meet your mother.
Not on a phone, not over the phone. You came drive from Durban and see in Davidton you driving as a white person alone, going at Twatwa. Twatwa is inside Prada. It's more going to almost to Mpumalanga. You see, and shocking, Nick. And that's why I'm asking about your background, how you were raised, and so amazing, my brother. And I think credit to your ancestors and God, also to your father and your mom. I met them. I was privileged to meet your mother and your father. So, Nick, the question is, I want to find out, you went to Sokalatuma direct to go, we went there and knocked directly without even applying. You never had any invitation. You just, you told yourself that I must go direct to Sokalatuma and ask for work. And what happened, Nick?
Because you know what the thing is sometimes, when you're from a place of privilege, or even when you're not from a place of privilege, you can start to look at the world and think that the world is unfair. That how come this person has something, I don't have something? How come that guy got a job I grew up with, but I don't have a job? It's easy to think that life is unfair. But there's this realization that must come, like, yes, life is unfair. And you only eat what you catch. And you only get what you go fetch for yourself. And unless you happen to be born to the son of a queen or something, then no one can give you anything. So once that concept set in, then I was like, okay, because I was sulking for long. You know, I finished schooling and I was emailing. I thought it just worked like you email company, they tell you thank you, no thank you. But that time you find out they don't even reply. It's very hard to get a job in South Africa. So I thought, no, like I had this concept in my head. You only eat what you catch. You can only eat what you catch. So go out there and try. And I remember it was my brother who gave me the key piece of advice before I left. We're not allowed to swear on the show, no?
No, you can.
I can, okay, because it's important what my brother told me. I said to him, no, I'm nervous, man. I have to show up to these people that are going to be working at an office middle of the day. He said to me, the worst thing they can do is tell you to fuck off. That's the worst thing that can happen. And then you go back to being this unemployed person you were before. But you never know, something might happen. And yeah, I went and knocked on the door. I had my CV prepared and I'd pre-written like an article that I would have written about a Kaizer Chiefs game that had happened recently. And yeah, even there when I came, they didn't believe. They're like, oh, okay, you want to write about European football? I said, no, I want to write local football. And we had many interviews back and forth, and eventually they hired me. No experience, a very low salary, but it's, you know, then I worked my way up, and it was crazy for me because growing up, I used to have posters on my wall. I had a poster of you, Junior KHANYE. I had a poster of Sean Bartlett. I had a poster of, who was the other one? OJ Mabizela. And all these people I started to meet now I got to interview them as a journalist for Soccer Duma. It was crazy for me. And the other guys, not all the journalists there had the passion for local football like I did. So I was lucky. They used to send me on some really cool trips. They sent me to go stay with Baroka FC in Lebochamo. You know Lebochamo? Yeah? I don't know if there's another one.
Yes, next to Chenfest, yes.
Yeah, man. That time I was trying to find Lebochamo. It wasn't even like appearing on the map. I had to ask guys. And I had to go find this team called Baroka FC that was about to be promoted to the Premier League for the first time. And I got to stay with them. I got to stay there in the clubhouse. I got to stay in the village. Got to watch these guys like prepare, get ready for the most important game.
Being a journalist, by the way.
Being a journalist, experiences like that were incredible. Even they wanted me to capture what the life of the fans was like. They put me in a high ace in Kailicha. That was scary, man. Like going Kailicha at night time when the high ace is leaving at 11 at night, and we drive across the country to come to Gauteng for the Soweto derby with the Chiefs fans. and the Pirates fan. I'm into document the whole time. Yeah, man, like those things were scary at the time, but I'm so grateful that I got to have those experiences.
And what it was crazy, really. Nick, what challenges did you had by working as a journalist? I'm talking about, you never had people that threaten you, writing articles,
Big time.
threaten
Big
you.
time. Hey, the Bloem Celtic fans used to hate me. The Bloem Celtic
So
fans used to send me death threats.
you had to receive calls.
I used to get death threats, yeah, from the Bloem Celtic fans. They were very upset by if you wrote something bad about their team or something like that. But the main challenge is with the journalist, right, is that any other job, your incentive is to do better and to make more money and to carry on doing better. Journalist, you must sacrifice yourself for the people. You must not write what is popular. You must write what is the right thing to write. You must not create articles because you want to get clicks. You must report on something that the people need to know about. But that is difficult. You have to keep your soul somehow in a place where they're going to be trying to encourage you to sell your soul. So if you work for a newspaper as a journalist, they're going to say to you, like, we need more clicks. You must write more articles about Kaizer Chiefs. You must write more articles about MacG. You must do things that are going to get clicks. But you know, as a journalist, that there's this team in the second division that's struggling. There's an important story. There's an important player there.
Yes.
You have to have the bravery to still write something that is not popular. And that's tough as a journalist, because another thing you must sacrifice as a journalist is money. You will, unfortunately, struggle to ever make money as a journalist. And you must know that. And more importantly, you must be okay with that. It's the same as a teacher. You have to sacrifice yourself for the community. And if you're not the kind of person who can do that, that's okay. Then don't become a teacher, don't become a journalist. There's people out there, they call them martyrs, people who will sacrifice themselves for something else. And those people are the only people who are fit to become journalists and teachers. But it takes a special kind of person. It takes you sacrificing your life for the people. So that's the challenge of being a journalist.
So since you grew up supporting Kaizer Chiefs, now you see a story. There's article that you need to write that people they don't like, and you love Kaizer Chiefs, and you need to write about Kaizer Chiefs, whether it's a player or something that is happening at Kaizer Chiefs. How difficult it was for you to do that?
For me, it's not difficult because there's only certain support. To criticize a team is also to love your team. There's only certain supporters that are so tied to a team that they get upset and they will never criticize them. We're talking of Mama Fefes, not Mama Joy, she was bought, but Buerta, Saddam Make, these people, you mustn't get them to write articles about. Their job is to bleed and die for their team. But as a journalist, your job is you bleed and die for the truth. And even if that means you have to stamp on yourself, if you have to write an article about your own father doing something wrong, you must be willing to do that. So also for me, I want to say something maybe controversial. The Kaizer Chiefs that I grew up supporting, that I have this tattoo of, it doesn't bear much resemblance to the Kaizer Chiefs of today. My earliest memories are filled with FNB Stadium, turquoise seats, Cyril Nzama, Skaren Gobese, Jabu Pule, Junior KHANYE, Brian Beloy. That was Kaizer Chiefs to me. It was very easy to fall in love with. And maybe back then I would have struggled to write something bad about them. But another point is that they were so good that you could not write anything bad about them. So these teams who don't want to be criticized, the answer is do well, then we don't have anything to criticize. If you're not doing well and we criticize, that criticism is actually something helpful for you. It's something from a place of love. But you need to be very careful how you frame it with football supporters. South African football supporters are very sensitive to favoritism. If they think there's favoritism, they're not happy. So you can't only write good articles about Chiefs or bad articles about Chiefs. You know?
Yeah, Nick, I hear you. And Nick, I wanna ask you this question. Currently, which team are you supporting and who's your favorite player?
So it's like
Currently.
So yeah. So I'll explain a bit. Supporting the team, for me, it's like being married to the mother of your children. Like, I just can't leave her, no matter if she turned out to be something else, you know. Kaizer Chiefs, I was taught, the reason why my father said you must support a team, you must pick a team and stick with it, he said it will teach you loyalty. It will teach you how to stick through things thick and thin, and you must still be there when things are bad. So if I was to abandon my team, I wouldn't have learned the lesson of loyalty. It's painful for me now to watch football because I was even telling the guys outside that if there's a Chiefs game on and the same time a Sundowns game on, I'm a Chiefs supporter for life. I'll watch the Sundowns game because I don't want to waste my Sunday. I want to rather be entertained. So, hey, I love watching Pirates and Sundowns now more than any other team. I also always have a soft spot for Abafana Bestende Golden Arrows, even though they're always mid-table. I've always had a soft spot for that team, so I always catch those games.
Or because you come from Devon?
Yeah, not even. I just always like the style. Golden Arrows is an interesting team. You know, most people don't realize Golden Arrows is the oldest team in the league now, since Wits left. Golden Arrows has been around since the end of World War II. Started by the miners there. And the same saying, Abafana Bestende, was the same saying back then. The same style of play is the same style now. So that's why Golden Arrows is an interesting team. And I like watching them. But, you know, at the moment, my favorite players are probably in the other teams. You know, I like watching Mofokeng. I've forever been such a big fan of Tapela Morena in Sundowns. And, like, my favorite players are in those other teams. In Chiefs, the player I'm most excited about, but it's going to sound weird because he's having inconsistent performances, but I truly believe if we can back him, he's going to become a club legend, is Bradley Cross.
Talking about the left back.
The left back.
I'm going to disagree with you.
I know, I'm sure. But the only thing is because you've seen the games where he messes up bad. But see the games where he's solid. He is solid.
Yeah.
He's young. He needs time.
How old is the boy?
He's in his like early 20s, 21, 22,
Oh,
something like that.
He's 20 years.
And it's even, does he not remind you of something? Even if you look at the initials, BC. What's another BC that was a left back for Kaizer Chiefs?
I think David Kaname.
Bradley Cornell as well.
Oh, Bradley, yeah.
I believe he's got the same style as Bradley. He's got the same presence, same qualities, same initials even. But he needs time to become that player. And it's a pressure position, left back. It's not the same. You and me played in attacking positions. Hey, you just get to run that way. When you're there in defense and you're watching them come and you're hearing the boos, and it's a different type of mental strength that's taken. Yeah. So I think if they can work with Bradley Cross, I'm sure he can be the best player.
I think also the development, Nick, in South Africa, and I'm going to ask this question too, and development structure in South Africa, we bypass things now. We do cut and paste too much. We're grinding results at development. TTC, I see everybody want to win the league. And that's where, I mean, if you've got a team in the PSL team that is doing very well structured, and you've got the TTC that it's not all about the results. If the senior side is doing well, is there to pay to a premiership in the right position. TTC, you need to develop players. It's not all about the results. But I think we're doing vice versa. I want to win the league at TTC and the league. So I think the boy was wrong developed. Maybe. For me, he's got the natural talent, but wrong developed. Also, Nick, I want to ask, comparing our standard of football compared to Europe, I want to find out from you. I know what I'm asking. It's like crazy what I'm asking, but I want to find out. Where do you see us? Are we close to European? I'm talking about Spain. Let me know. Let me be specific. Where comparing our league with Spain. Are we coming close? Now we Sundowns going to Club World Cup. We qualified for AFCON. We Champions League, both teams, Sundowns, they're doing very well. They're going to knockout stages. Obviously, there's improvement, but I want to find out, are we close? Are we on the right direction? Close comparing to Spanish league. I'm going to talk about those leagues. Spain, yes. England, yes, I think it's physical. But yes, I can say because the league is so rich, got the resources, they've got international players most dominating the league. Yes, I can count that league as well. Where do you see ourselves compared to those two?
Yeah, so, I think I've got a different perspective on it. I think South Africans, we're overly critical and harsh of our own. Yeah. We like to think that we are not like at some high level. But what people don't understand about football, the perspective of being a football fan, for me, it's the same as listening to music. There's different genres, there's different tastes, there's different styles. And for some people, the English style of football is their thing. In England, when the fans see a centre-back put in a grinding challenge, they stand and clap. Hey, that's bloody good on you, South Africa, if we can, that moment can happen in a game, we won't notice. But we see a midfielder doing some skill. That's the thing that gets us to our feet. It's different flavors. It's that here we have our own flavor, and it's something the world and even South Africans haven't grasped yet. It's a flavor of football that's more based on expression, it's more based on agility, it's more based on arrogance, it's more based on trickery. It's a beautiful thing. That's the football I like watching. So I will always watch a South African football game over an English football game or over a Spanish football game. That style of football, I know it's nice. I know they probably beat us in a game 9 times out of 10. But for me as a football fan, we watch for entertainment. We watch for the joy and the love.
True.
I get that from South Africa. I don't get that anywhere else. And I actually think even if we had to go head to head, we're closer than you think. We even use Spain as an example. Man, we've got a good record against Spain internationally. Kune saved 2 David Villa penalties in his life. In the World Cup in 2002, we were so close to beating Spain and going through. They had Raul and all those guys. Dr. Motsepe bought Barcelona here a few years ago with Messi, Suarez, all these guys. It was a competitive game, even though they won. And it's also harsh to judge it by those results where we get to play them once in a blue moon. If we had to be playing these guys week in and week out, we'd figure them out. We'd crack them as well. The talent is here. I believe in the development. There's two things that slow us down. One is the scouting. The scouts stop
That's
going.
powerful, eh?
Yeah, they stop going Eswatini. That's the problem. They don't
So
go
important,
Eswatini
yeah.
anymore, and they don't go to a kasi they don't know anymore. You hear stories of scouts getting paid by chairman to go to Mpumalanga, scout me a player. Only to find the guy pockets half. He goes to Nike Center Soweto. Says, when he gets the boy, he says, tell them I found you in Mpumalanga there. It's a problem. It's a big problem because a lot of the guys are out there, the talent. But now, then the second problem comes into play. When they're here, you have to guide these young boys. You can't just bring them here and leave them. You can't just drop them in the city and leave them. You even know yourself from being in that situation. You need a role model. You need a father figure. You need someone who's just going to keep you there. So we have the ingredients here. We can be world beaters. We can be one of the best countries in the world at football. We just haven't figured out how to get all our ingredients into one dish.
Yeah, Nick, your understanding of football is something else. Now, Nick, you became a writer, man. The first book that you wrote, it was Tembi Khatlan, right?
It was The Curse of Teko Modise.
Oh, Teko Modise, The Curse of Teko Modise. How did you manage with? How did you write the Teko Modise's book? Let me ask that question.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one as well because such things weren't being done in the country at the time. I think there was only one book, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, there was only one book previously that was released about South African footballers, and there was a story about Lucas Radebe and Mark Fish together that an English guy wrote. It was a very boring, terrible book. And that thing existed, and I remember I was growing up, I was a football fan and also a reader. I used to love reading, but there was never any books about South African football. So then one day this idea just hit me. I was like, I can be that guy. I can be the guy who bring books about South African football. No one else is doing, no one else wants to do them. I can do them. And I was like, okay, in my head, I was like, one day I need to find someone and convince them. But now I'm thinking like bottom league player, something, start small. And then one day before work, I saw on the news, they had this snippet, and this lady says, Teko Modise, legendary midfielder, is thinking of turning to a writing career after football. Like, cuts to the scene of him, and he's like, now that I've won the Champions League, this was in 2016, he says, now it's time for my book to be written. Now, it's not like, you may think if you're a Soccer Laduma journalist, you just have Teko Modise's number. You don't. There's some players that you don't. You can get hold of guys. There's some guys that are superstar level. Even the journalists can't get hold of them. Teko Modise was one of those. He didn't give interviews, didn't do anything. I phoned. I asked favor. Someone gave me the number of Jasmine Mahlakane, his agent. And I called him and I said, Jasmine, you don't know me. You've never heard of me. My name's Nick. I'm the guy to write Teko's book. And then they invited me to Joburg to meet. We had a meeting. They had a bunch of other authors that they also were trying for it. And thank God they chose me at the end of the day.
And how far did that book go, Nick?
That book did extremely well. It's still doing extremely well. One of the highest selling South African sporting books of all time, was even a bestseller in neighboring countries. That book did extremely well. But what was tough about that book was that it was my first book. I was 22 years old.
I want to know that. Yes,
Yeah,
that's,
I was very young, and we had to approach a publisher to bring out the book. As you know, the publishing model is very brutal. They came and they say, okay, we'll print this book, but we keep like 80, 90% of the profits, and then you and Teko must share the rest. And that book did so well, but for me, what would make me happy is if Teko got to make true money off that book. I don't know how much he made, but it would never have been as much as the publisher. And that obviously dampens your enthusiasm to carry on promoting the book and things. So it was a weird thing. I'll say overall it was so successful, and it changed. So many people told us that book changed their lives. So many people learned how to read English from that book. But it should have gone even greater lengths. But the story is not over. That book is still selling. It's still available in bookstores, and that's been it's a hugely selling book.
yeah. And at that time, how did you feel, Nick, first writing a book of the big superstars in South Africa, big superstar in South Africa, and everybody was trying to get hold of the guy. You're talking about Atos, they were trying, and you struggled to get his number. How did it feel to you after the book, after you wrote that book and the book was so successful? How did you feel, Nick?
I was shitting myself. I was just shitting myself everywhere because 1 minute was just a journalist no one knew. And next thing I'm rolling with Teko Modise and Sunday Times is interviewing me and things are happening. I'm still a kid, and I'm still at that time, I'm still going out and partying a lot and doing these things. But now I'm like, they got me on E-News in the morning, but I'm hungover now. And I'm like, so it's like, it was difficult to adapt to the life. Life just kicked up when that book came out. And I think even I was surprised. I never wrote the book with the intention that other people would know my name. I just wanted to write this book for Teko, do this thing. And then I remember the night of the launch, we showed up there. Robert Marawa was hosting the launch. And all the legends were there. Jomo Sona, Dr. Kumalo, everyone you can think of is sitting in the front row. And on stage, I didn't even expect this. There's 3 chairs there. I just thought it was going to be Teko and Robert. And they're like, no, it's also you. So it was so, I couldn't believe it. And I was so scared. But then I thought that I've been put here.
God and your ancestors.
They put me here, and it's something I must do. And that also told me the way I wrote the book is also very different. It's not like a normal biography. And that was also part of the bravery that I got from that. I was like, it's strange that you're even here in the first place. It's strange that you're even given this opportunity. So why not just do the craziest thing ever and try to do it as uniquely as possible?
Yeah. Now you wrote, I think, Thembi Kgatlhane's book. And how did you write Thembi Kgatlhane's book, Nick?
So Thembi was an amazing one because after Teko, I never wrote a book for like a year or 2 years. And I'd known Thembi for a long time and had watched her, and she was always my favorite Banyana player. And she also just sent me a DM on Instagram one day saying that she had read Teko's book, and she had just won the African Women's Footballer of the Year. And she wanted a story to be told. And so many people were against us. They were like, she's so young, she can't have a story told. But what we had to explain to them, age is not the requirement for having an impact on people. An incredible story can play out over 2 hours, not even a whole lifetime. And again, this was another example of us writing something, not because we thought it would be popular, but because we thought it was right. That is the first ever authorized biography of a black South African women's footballer in the history of the world. And that book was translated into a children's book, which was even translated into numerous languages, local South African languages. And that book, more than any other, is like, we've seen young people come from that book and be like, no, okay, if Thembi can do this, I can do this. So that book was very inspirational, and Thembi is a very close person to my heart.
Especially as a lady woman.
She's amazing.
Yeah, you've done well for yourself, Nick, and congratulations, my brother, and compliment. You changed people's life because you writing a book, and everybody must read that book, the story. And Nick, I want to find out, you don't just write any book for anyone. You told me as well that, Junior, I don't just jump and write anybody's book. There are many people who are calling me, wanting me to write their books. specific, Nick. What are you looking at from the person? Yeah.
That's an interesting one, because I would shock you if I told you some of the people I've turned down, like they're famous people. But for me, you know what's tough with a celebrity? A celebrity often cannot tell the difference between what is interesting to them and what is interesting about them. They can't tell the difference. And they're surrounded by people who tell them like, no, you're the one, you're the only one, and you must write a book, they're going to buy it in America and stuff. But it's like, you must, if it's only your sister and your daughter telling you this, you must like really try to think about it objectively. So a lot of guys, they don't have as interesting story as they think. And the main reason usually is that their reason for wanting to tell a story is vengeance. They want to set the record straight. They want to, this whole thing of setting the record straight. For me, I'm not interested in it, because you must prove your doubters wrong through who you are, not what you say. And a man will never reach his destination if he stops to throw stones at every dog that's barking at him. And these guys who come to me and want to set the record straight, it's like they just want to throw stones at dogs. They're not trying to change people's lives, not trying to do something impactful. So I'm not interested in helping someone settle like a petty score or something like that. And that also leads you to thinking that some things are interesting, but it's actually, no, it's just you and your drama and your beef you're having with one guy. It's not interesting to the rest of us. It cannot teach us anything new about ourselves or the world around us. So that's a hard criteria. I mean, another issue I've had is just like guys, we've started working together and then they get in trouble with the law. That's happened a few times. They get arrested or something and then the book stops. Because guys live wild lives out there, and it catches up to them at some point. So, so the main thing I've turned down people is just for that. There's some people, I don't want to, there's some people who might watch this who think that I've turned them down for that. It's not always that. A lot of the time also just schedule. My schedule is just full. But there's other things, man. Like I've been writing with a guy, and then halfway through, a famous guy, and halfway through there was a rape accusation that came out about this guy. And I was like, me personally, I just don't want to work with you anymore, you know? And that's how that one ended. So, as you know, it's a collaboration. You invite each other into each other's lives.
Yes.
I went to Twatwa to meet your mother. I've had tea with her. It's that level of intimacy. If I don't agree with who you are as a person, it's hard for me to drive from Durban to Twatwa to meet your mother. You know? So it's those kind of things. And it's mainly a feeling of inhlizio, you know, you can't describe it. As you say, when we met, it was a weird thing. It was almost like MacG that introduced us. I never thought I would. If you told me when I was younger, would you write a book for Junior KHANYE, I never thought so. That would be the case.
Yes.
But you know in your heart.
Yeah, Nick, I remember me speaking to you. You said to me, Junior, writing a book, yes, you can write a book, but I remember me telling you about another boy who claimed wanting to write my book.
I remember.
And he said he wrote it, actually. I used to tell the media about the guy's name. His name, I think it was Sizwe Fetsitole. Apology to mention his name, but by then, and then everybody believed in the media because we're writing the book via phone, also via Zoom, me speaking, interacting with him. And it didn't happen. And when I spoke to you about that, me meeting you, I remember Daily Chat, the first time I met you, you were shocked. And you also asked me, do you know how difficult it is to write a book? And then I asked you why. You said it's not all about writing a book. The book needs to be published. And for the publisher to buy a story, it's very difficult. And you made me, actually, by that time, you opened up my eyes because I didn't know about that. I want to find out, Nick, and please be open about that. And there's any guys that approach you, I'm talking about former players, celebrities, singers, artists, whatever, actors, that approach you, and when you thought of it, when you go back home to the drawing board and being approached to write his book or her book, and say, even if I write the book, this book is not going to be, nobody will buy. I'm talking about the publisher. I'm talking about, have you gone to that level? Somebody approach you and say, can you write my book? And when you think of that person, maybe if you write that book you knew very well that is not going to be bought by the publisher. Have you met that person or people, couple of people?
Yeah, we've definitely had things like that before, but it's more, the issue is not that the story is not there. It's that the way they want to tell the story maybe is not gonna sell it. As you say, it's very difficult to. The whole business of bringing a book out is very difficult, and that thing you experienced, you would not believe how common it is. Most guys who've approached me, most celebrities, it's not their first time. They've actually had someone who's let them down, and then they come to me. So a lot of guys, they just know someone from like the Kasi, and they've been told like, this guy wants to be a writer. You must give him a chance. Yes, you must give him a chance. You must develop him, but you mustn't trust your whole book to this guy. And you must see, like, if the guy's not producing work, you must cut that off early, you know? There's a saying I always remember, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. So if there's a guy who's always saying he's going to do something, like, it's not good enough unless he's showing you drafts and things like that. But to your point about a story and sellability, sure, it's difficult because the difficult part is unlocking the story. The difficult part is unlocking the story in someone else. And actually, one of the biggest challenges I've had was with MacG recently. It was very hard to unlock that guy's story because he is such a good interviewer. And
You wrote MacG's story, right?
Yes, I wrote MacG's story.
I pick up to you, my brother, wherever you, yeah.
Thank you. MacG, our brother, also.
I know
also
that.
Yeah. And he, because he's used to interviewing people the whole time and always asking questions, to interview him is difficult. He's like, it's very difficult to unlock the stories and get him to remember things. So that thing, there was like a threat, like, this is a book about a big name, but we don't have the stories. And it took months of working with him and becoming more comfortable with each other. And eventually we unlocked the stories. So for me, there's no bad stories, but there's stories that have not been unlocked properly, you know?
Yeah, that's so difficult. And I want to find out this from you. It's a past. If it's past, it's past. Have you wrote the book with someone and you never get along with that person? After writing the book is published. Now you fought with that person. Have you been in that situation whereby you wrote somebody's book and after everything the book is published, and then now you don't get it? There's a bit of tension between you and him.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that's happened so much. I've had guys where we've had fights before the books come out and crazy things have happened, and I've had that happen before. But I wouldn't say I've fought, but there's something that's sad that has happened. You know, in the process of Teko and I writing this book, I feel like we also became friends. And we spent a lot of time together as well. We even traveled to other countries together and that. And I haven't spoken to him for a few years now, and I don't know why. And I've tried, and it's dangerous for me to assume why that is.
Yes,
it's very dangerous for me to assume why that is. But I know that I always handled our friendship and the things he told me in good faith, and I'm confident that I didn't let him down on his side. But the way life goes, it's just drifted, and that's been quite painful for me because he's someone I care a lot about. And I think a possibility is that, you know, the way these publishing deals go and the way it works with the publisher, I think maybe he wasn't happy with the end result and wasn't sure who to blame between the publisher, me, all this stuff. And I've been advised by someone close to Teko not to assume that unless he's told me that, and he's never told me that. But I mean, the reason I'm telling you now is because we don't speak, and my attempts to get hold of him haven't worked. But that's a hole in my heart. It's really a pain I feel. It's a guy I care about deeply. It's a guy who's misunderstood by a lot of people. I felt like I always got him, and I don't know. We just lost touch, and I assume that it's because he doesn't want to speak to me, but it might not be. It might be just that there's some things happening on his side. But yeah, that's the main one. Other than that, I've had other guys who, like, we were writing a book and then next thing they're in the news and they're like on trial for murder and things, and then like the book falls apart. So I've had crazy things like that happen as well. Book deals can fall apart very easily.
Nick, your advice to people who want to tell their stories, writing books. Would you advise to a person? Would you advise a person to have his own money to publish the book, or would you advise the person to tell the proper story, so that the story can be published by the publisher? Is it writing a book? Is it good for you to publish your book on your own, or being published by other people? It's a question.
Yeah, for sure. So it depends. It depends on what you want out of the book. If you want to have an impact, if you want to leave your legacy so that your children, your grandchildren can read about you and learn about you, and people, generations to come who never saw you can learn about you, or do you want to make money off the book? Obviously, of course, we would love it if we could do both. But the sales part is never guaranteed. You don't know how people are going to react when this book comes out. You don't know if they're going to spend their money on it, no matter how popular this person is. So I would say you should always aim to try create a legacy, and if it resonates with enough people, they will support it financially and it will make a lot of money. What people need to know and be very sober about before undertaking writing a book or publishing is that the publishing model is brutal. It is very unfair. It's similar to how record labels work in music. A publisher takes a chance on you. They say, okay, we'll print this book. It's very expensive to have a book printed. So they'll say, we'll print this book. And it's very expensive to have a book distributed to stores. They say, we'll pay for that. But because we're taking that risk, we're also taking like 80, 90% of the profit. And you must have what's left. So that's a very unfair deal. But everything in life has trade-offs. There's no perfect solution. That one, the nice thing about that is that you don't have to spend any of your money on it, and you don't have to gamble on it. And there's a chance you can put all your money into printing a book that doesn't sell, and your family will be very upset with you. At least there you're gambling with house's money, as they say. But now, the other hand, you can publish your own book and bring out your own book, and you can keep all the money from that, and you will definitely make more money off that way. If you believe that you have a brand that people are going to actually buy, you must ask yourself seriously, is it just the people in your house that are telling you to write a book, or is it other people? You have to be really honest. It's a tough conversation to have with yourself. A lot of guys are surprised when their books come out. And if you are going to publish it yourself, you must know that now it becomes much more of a business than about just writing. You're now going to focus on a bunch of things that are not writing. You must now find a printer and strike a deal with them. You must approach the bookstores yourself and strike a deal with them. Dealing with the bookstores is brutal. Exclusive Books buys our books for like 50% discount. Imagine that. And they return what they don't sell. So is there any product you sell where you have to sell it to someone for half the price that it's actually sold for? Books, it's a brutal model to make work. But even all those things against you, if you have a good enough story, even still with all that, you can still make a lot of money off it, and it can still go well.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I get it, Nick. And I'm going to ask this question. I know it's going to be strange, but I have to ask, Nick. People want to know. I'm talking about writers, people who write book authors. I'm talking about people like you. Writing book, do you make money out of that? Of it's about you creating a profile for yourself. It's a question. I'm talking about you as a writer, the author. Do you make money, or somebody? I know that I've wrote. I don't wanna talk about myself, me and you. Yes, we know what our experience are. Who's making money between both?
You make money eventually, but you have to pay your dues for a very long time first. So, and this is a problem I've noticed with a lot of black authors that have come to, young black authors that have come to me for advice and things, is that there is putting the horse before the cart before the horse, something like that. In that you write a book or you become kind of successful, and now you think you're the groot man, and you think now you deserve money and you deserve these things. I was broke. Teko's book was sitting number 1 on the bestsellers lists in the bookstores, and I was sleeping on my friend's floor at the time. I was broke. Even when I wrote your book, I was broke. It took a long time. And I didn't make any money off my first few books, pretty much nothing. The publishers have gotten very rich off my books, very, very rich. Yeah, we're talking some books in like the millions they've made. And now keep in mind, I've written every single word in these things. And sometimes I can get like $1,000 a year or something from these things. But if you can still stick to it and keep going, it gets to a stage where now you have a name. And now significant people approach you. And now people from overseas approach me to write their stories. And now I'm writing for people who are paying me in dollars.
Does that happen now to you, Nick?
That's happened now.
Wonderful,
now.
Eh?
Thank you so much. And again,
I too going to Double KHANYE.
Yeah, thank you
so
much.
You went there, people they don't know. You went there with me, eh?
I went there and things started happening for me.
My charola,
Yeah, no, hot song. I'll say straight up, but things started happening for me.
Yeah, we thank God of Mount Zion and your ancestors as well.
Oh, for sure. Thank God.
Yeah.
Because things definitely started happening for me after that. And I had to suffer for so long. And you can ask my girlfriend, I was on the verge of quitting. One night I was in tears. I was like, well, I write these books and I make no money and people cuck on me all the time. But if you stick to something, like, you will get rewarded. So now I have American footballers and Mexican professional footballers are approaching me to write their stories. And you know how this happened, actually? This also shows you why you must do the right thing and not the popular thing. You never know when you're going to be rewarded for it. It will never be in the short term. The reason these American people have hired me is not because they know of my career or because they read MacG's book or your book or anything. It's because someone over there found Thembi Kgatlana's book in America, and a woman read it and she loved it and she called me. I've never made a cent off Thembi's book. In fact, we had such a fight with the people involved that I told them to give my royalties to Thembi because I felt bad for bringing her to this deal. So I never made a cent off that book. And then one day, 6 years later, someone from America sends me a message, say, I read this book, we're going to hire you for something. So that's why you must always do the right thing and not the popular thing. You'll be rewarded, but you won't see when the reward comes. So only now, my first book came out 10 years ago when I was 22 years old. Only now at the age of 32 have I started making enough to make a living and be like, fine, thank you so much.
Yeah, Nick, because of time, and there's a possibility between me for a second book. We're still talking behind the scene. Junior KHANYE himself from Final State H1, 1520, the Brazilian fit.
Sao Paulo.
I'm on Sao Paulo. I'm so humble, but don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget the hashtag Bet with the best, hashtag World Sport Betting. We're so humble. We are proudly sponsored by WSP. So humble. Asiyabonga mfethu ne-team yam behind, and we thank you nama support with fans. We know we've got fans. And don't forget, KHANYE still all over exclusive book. We're still gonna promote it, so it's other pounds. We're starting afresh.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we must tell the people something about this.
Yeah.
I've had 7 books published. This book is the most well-reviewed book I've ever written. It's the book that people, journalists and politicians and people who don't usually give compliments have given this book a compliment like nothing else. People who don't know me, don't know you, don't know us anything. The late Eusebius McKaiser. I only ever saw Eusebius cucking on people and bringing them down and criticizing things. He said this book is brilliant, compelling, heartwarming. He loved it. Mandy Weiner, the journalist as well, also can bring down guys. She loved this book, chose as the book of the week once. This book, for me, of my 7 books I've written, I can safely say this is the best written one, I think, so far in terms of the impact it's had. So this is a very special book, and Junior and I have had to fight forces bigger than what is fair to keep this book alive. But know that this book is still around, and it is going to still be selling for generations to come, and that anyone who's picked it up has not been disappointed.
Yeah, true. Very emotional when I read it. You know, here, Nick, we dedicated to this father of mine.
Surgeon,
on my birthday, I was burying him.
I remember.
And it's very, very emotional. Also, speaking about my life. This is a Bible. I don't fake me. And this book opened up a lot of doors for me. I had a reality show after this. I became an actor. Now I've got my own podcast. A lot of things open. I think so me and you, it was a calling as well. And there's big things that we still... I remember me speaking, somebody spoke about the movie. I remember almost did the movie, me and you, about out of this book. We're so humble. Still around this book, Junior KHANYE, KHANYE. A story written by Nikolaos Kirkinis. Nick, thank you so much. And I wish you all the best, my brother.
Thank you,
and I'm so humble. All the way from Durban.
For
Me
you,
and you.
Grootman.
Also, you come to David and people they don't know.
Hey,
For me,
any day. Any day I'll go to Twitter for you.
Abba fit namanje saivala. Amen.